I'm recording this session. Okay. Disclaimer, because it's not possible for us to give the information as accurately as though we try in this digital era, like sometimes we miss out the information, but we try our best. Again, a disclaimer is a normal thing. Okay. Today agenda I'll be revising the last week class what we did. Then I go to the ADM in depth today. Then P phase we're going to complete today. Okay. And I'm going to give the introduction of what is A phase. And the coming class, we do B, C, D, E, and F. Good news. What are the steps we follow in P and A is different, but B, C, D is the same. Okay. Next, housekeeping, normal thing, there's nothing. So what is the message I want is, we try to make it more interactive this time. So I'll take the case study of the health. So I put in more information. So some of you are not working in the health industry, nothing to worry. I'll give you what is the knowledge you require for the domain. And what we do is, as I go with the concept, I'll stop. I'll open up the chat. So I'll be looking at the chat. You please come with whatever the concern you have. I try to address your problem, then we go. So what I want to do is, I want to really simulate. You are involved in the project and you are working on the project. How do you think you must go in that matter? There's a reason behind that. I'll tell you why. Okay, this one you can do at the break. I want to get some of your understanding. Okay, last week we covered what is the overall view of the enterprise architecture, the key concepts I told you. Then one of the thing is I covered what are the components of TOGAF. Today I'll be covering the ADM. Okay, last week what we discussed is, because digital transformation is happening, it's inevitable to have a EA approach. Again, EA approach does not work in isolation. EA consists of people, process, and technology. Then we discussed an enterprise architecture is, though it's an enterprise architecture, is not a physical architecture what we see. It constitutes of the business processes, the technology stack, everything. Whatever an enterprise have in terms of information systems, assets, everything comes under the umbrella of enterprise architecture. Okay, ADM phase. Last week we discussed ADM phase. In the P phase, we're going to start a practice in a very high level. Then A phase is the one we're going to identify the scope. What is the scope of the cycle we want to do? I'll be coming in depth in the next class. What are the additional things we'll be doing? Like once we come across strategically, then we come across segmental, then we go in project based. So I got 3 cycles. I go in depth as I go across in the next class. Then BCD is the one what we call as architectural phase. We're going to define and analyze an architecture. E and F phase, E, F, and G. E and F is planning, high-level planning and detailed planning. G is governance and implementation. And H is the one which constantly we look at the market condition to see where we can be proactive. So one of the key things must get into your mind. EA practitioner's main role is to future-proof the enterprise, not the technology stack. It's not possible. The way the technology is going across is not possible to future-proof a technology stack. It was there in the olden days, especially like when you had this capex model, when you go for this, the transfer, especially the mainframes were for like 10, 20 years. Yes, that was the time when you're going to say, yes, future-proof technology as well as business. But now we're going to future-proof the business by giving them the flexibility, like giving the abstraction from technology implementation to technology capability. Okay, now I'm going to go in depth of what is, hold on please. Again, I need to admit, sorry guys. Okay, I'm going to give what is the concept of architecture development method. In depth, I'm going to go today, okay? Okay, ADM. First of all, what it does is, it's a iterative process. Last week I told you. Again, sometimes what happens is we go across the whole process. Generally, when we're doing the strategic architecture, we call it the light architecture. We go across one round. Then anytime when we do segmental, it can be between the phases, within the phases. And please remember, anytime we want to revisit a phase, the key things we're going to consider is what is the scope and what is the detail and any schedule or milestones, etc. The reason is an enterprise architect cost may vary from $1,000 to about $10,000 approximately. So said that, so it's a resource. So henceforth, anything you want to revisit, there must be an intention and a good reason behind that. Okay. Okay, I told EA is the iterative and incremental process. I told you last week. Now let us analyze the ADM in much more detailed way. Okay, in the P phase, we're going to start a EA practice. So today I'll be going in depth of what is necessity to start a EA practice and what are the activities you're going to do. Okay. Again, in the A phase, we set up the scope. What is the scope of a practice? See, one of the key thing I'm telling you from the last class, an EA is a process which exists as long as the enterprise exists. So said that when you start a EA project, you'll be having some kind of KPIs identified in the A phase, and you're going to ensure that KPI is met in the G phase. Okay, said that, what I want to give the concept here is, you have a budget. Okay, when you want to go for A to G, there's a budget for setting up the project, setting up the EA, what is that, the capability of what is required for the business initiative. At the same time, there's a budget again to ensure it is being achieved for the business what is expected. So that must go into the mind. So anything, because it can be a non-profit organization, it can be a government organization, it can be a what is it, commercial. There is a budget, there is a way of something what we call as a outcome for whatever we do. That must go into your mind. Then when we come, so he said that just start thinking from now onwards. The moment I say A phases, you need to have multiple combination of skills. Then we come to business architecture. So business architecture means, again, your skills must be how to develop a business architecture. That's the high level. If you go to the next level, especially like segmental or project based, you must be able to at least analyze from business analysis purpose. So generally an architect need to have that kind of a mindset. Then we come to the C phase. C phase, historically TOGAF came into existence in 1995. So at that time, what was happening is the systems, whatever we are procuring, it was bundled with the application and the data together. That's why C phase we call as information system architecture, but it has got two phases. One is the data phase and one is the application phase. Okay, said that, we're going to identify what kind of information systems are needed. See, you please remember here, when you talk about systems, so generally if in a company we say, we want a CRM system. What we think is, we don't say CRM. Generally, if you go to a company, they say, we got a Siebel or we got a Salesforce. So we got a Microsoft Dynamics. So that's the way they say. But when you think as an enterprise architect, you're going to abstract what capability the business needs. Oh, they want an identity management system. They want a CRM system. They want a CMS system. They want a records management system. So you talk in terms of application. Okay, next. So data at this moment, see, again, you must remember, especially way back in 95, in 2000 and all, if you think of a hard disk, you might be getting like 30 to 40 gig or 100 gig, not what you get like today, like 1 tera, 2 tera. So again, all the data was not stored. Only what is essential for the business was stored, because data, to store the data, it was costing you a fortune. Okay. At the same time, at that time of the time, the business was having only some kind of business rules, and the data was captured only a certain time in a business model. But now it is not like that. Data is captured across. So actually, in Archimate, TOGAF is separated, but in unfortunately the ADM phase, it has got two phases. But when we do the things, we must consider as a separate phases. But in realistic, as you go in the environment, data cuts across all the phases of the ADM. So that's why, that's the reason, if you look at the industry, you got more of unstructured data than the structured data in the industry now. It can be through a mobile phone, it can be through internet browsing, it can be the amount of document, especially IoT devices. So all are generating unstructured data. Okay. Then the technology stack. Again, technology stack, what happens? You must really look at what is the technology stack needed. Example, I need a computing power. I need a storage. I need this kind of processors. The general technology stack was not abstracted in the industry. What they are saying is, okay, I'll go for a mainframe. I go for a mid-range. I go for this kind of a computer. So as an architect, when you think, you must abstract the technology stack in terms of capability. Then in the E phase is the one, see, BCD is the one we're going to analyze what kind of architecture is needed. Again, in the last class, I told you, B, C, and D we call as the core domain, irrespective of any industry, irrespective of any type of enterprise, commercial or public, government services. The core domain is the same. That one you must try to get into your mind. Okay. So in the core domain, we'll be just analyzing what kind of architecture is needed. Only in the E phase, look at the name of the E phase, opportunities and solutions. When we analyze, when we come to E phase, we look, okay, we have analyzed the architecture. For that architecture, then we identify, hey, what kind of products are available for us to implement. So depending on type of the company, if they're very aggressive or techie company, then we go for a open source or even some emerging technology. If the government agencies, because government's main objective is to give service to the customer, then what we do is we try to go for something proven technology. Then again, see, one thing you must always get into the mind. Why TOGAF is really taking off in the market nowadays is because the main reason behind is when you do the E phase, you're going to come with analysis. Again, you go back to your stakeholder who has sponsored the project, get the approval, get the feedback, then based on the risk, the budget, the company appetite of risk, what they want to take, then you go for the F phase. But once you go to the F phase, already done a market analysis, you know what is the product and what kind of skills the company is having, again, what kind of deadlines they're having. Then you come with a detailed planning. This is where you got the exact planning when the project will be implemented. Again, it must get into your mind. Generally, EA practice is something is going to gown across what kind of process is needed, what kind of technology stack is needed, what kind of products are needed. But enterprise by itself will be not implementing it. It's going to oversight or is going to ensure the projects are successfully is been delivered at the required milestones. Of course, you must work with said that you will be working with the project manager or PM office in hand. Then the implementation governance looks at whatever you identified the KPIs or the matrix is been achieved. Then the actual change management is the one. Again, this one you must get into the mind. Architectural change management. See, architectural change management, the moment it comes to your mind, you must not only think of the technology, the architecture change, because TOGAF talks right from the strategy to the business and all the way to the application technology and implementation. Said that the change management can come occur anywhere. So said that again, always enterprise architecture top-down approach. So said that here generally C-level executives will be in the board members. At the same time, it can there be from the business side, architectural side, and project management side. They look at not only at the technology, what's happening, they're going to see what's happening in the other business models, how other companies are doing. See, yesterday I was reading the newspaper. They're saying because of COVID, a lot of businesses they want to downsize their retail shops because they saw the customers are more comfortable doing online shopping. Online shopping increased from 10 to 30%. So that's a big change. So that's where the other shops will be looking at the same pattern. Okay, if other shops are closing down, so this is the way we want to look. So what kind of technology stack we need? What kind of capability we need? That's how they operate. Okay. Then R phase, requirement management phase. Okay, here you must get into the mind. What happens if this is a repository? See, what requirements management does is it ensures that for each phase there is something need to be referred. So it gives like a reference point, what is expected, and it becomes like always like any documents produced. Again, you must get into the mind. TOGAF does not generate state-of-the-art architecture. it makes the state of the architecture to build that kind of a concepts it gives you. So TOGAF generally we call it verbose. It generates enormous amount of documentation. I'll be covering in the might be the fourth class. So TOGAF has got a modeling language called Archimate. So nowadays, what was example like some of the projects which I have executed, we are generating at least minimum about 300 400 page documents. So the entire thing can be done using Archimate modeling. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So it has become much more traceable and tangible. Okay, so now we got the concept of ADM phase. So all are okay till now? Let me see. Sorry, guys. What I realized is this is not so as WebEx, I have not used properly. Yeah, I got a question from here. Yes, a EA practitioner cost can vary from $1,000 to $10,000. If you're a good strategist, it can go up to 16.2. That's the rate of McKinsey. And in fact, Canberra government came with a like a reference point. They made it. They fixed any kind of an strategy work must be within 4K. So that's why like some of the top companies, that's what they give. Okay, then I did not have any questions. Okay, let me go to the next slide. See, now we know, please, what generally people do, they go for a training. See, I'm not joking. We finished this, especially the foundation one, the foundation exam is 40 questions, is memory recall. They go for a certification within 1 month or 2 months, they say I'm enterprise architect. For enterprise architect, looking at the each phase, you need some unique kind of a mindset. Okay, so let me go to the next slide. Okay, see, this is the hype. How many of you have come across hype cycle? How many of you come across hype cycle? Okay, see, this hype cycle is a very good thing because I'm observing this from last almost 10 years. It's very unique. What it does is, see, anytime when you start in some new initiative, example like .com. .com was such a big thing in the market. Suddenly it collapsed in 2002. When the hype in the market, it just goes up. Then afterwards, now e-commerce has become such a big hit. So what it says is because early adapters. So same thing, as you can see here, enterprise architecture consists, as long as the enterprise is there, enterprise architecture is there. So as long as the enterprise, whatever constitutes an enterprise, right from the business to technology to all the assets, comes under the umbrella of enterprise architecture. So said that, so this is what you can able to see in enterprise architecture. Is continuous planning, innovation management, human-centric design, customer journey, business agility, agile business, digital business transformation, solution architecture, everything comes under the umbrella of enterprise architecture. So you must get into your mind what is the scope of an enterprise architect and what the role you're going to play. Okay. Now let us look. Okay, now I told you what is needed to be an enterprise architect. I'm just curious, in whatever the role you are playing, which phase are you now? See, a lot of people do, and some people are working as a solution architect. They try to they go for EA training. And somebody might be working in business architecture, or somebody in solution, somebody might be in development, project management. I just want to get an idea, where are you guys? Because the reason is, when I'm trying to say my examples, I can able to customize and able to see based on the audience. If I don't see any project manager, I'll never talk about project management. If I see my audience are more from solution or more from business, I can able to customize my delivery. Some are from C phase. Okay, just type in the phase. That's all. Which phase are you? C, A, B, C, D, E. C, E means generally E and F, project management and operations. G is governance. Generally, many companies they use COBIT framework. And A phase is project management mainly. C, okay, I got more audience from A and C. Okay, so nobody is from B. Okay, that's strange. Okay. Okay. Now, I'll show the next slide. Then you see what is the scope of architect. See, we do a lot of, I have done trainings across Asia Pac. So sometimes what happens when we do a training, the person who comes, he'll be like a senior project manager or something. Then the moment our senior operations manager, he finishes the course after 2-3 months, again we meet him, he gives the card, senior enterprise architect. See, the problem is if he becomes a senior enterprise architect, he drives the show, think what's going to happen. I'm not saying it is wrong, but it's a journey. See, something what I say is like I'm a doctor and suddenly I'll go for 1 week course and I become a brain surgeon. It's a journey, you need some kind of a handhold, and it's a process. See, to become a chief architect or an enterprise architect, it takes a journey. You must work in all the phases. Okay, just coming back, just think now, don't think of any, like have an open mind. In the A phase, you must be a strategist to think. Because please remember, an enterprise architect is like a keystone in an arch. So one side of the arch is business, the other side is the technology. You're going to see that the whole as an arch, as a keystone, you see you're going to connect both the things together. It's a balance. Okay. Then you must be a project manager, kind of a mindset, a strategist. You must be a domain expert, some innovation kind of a thing you must be having in your mind. In the B, you must be a business analyst, first of all, then a business architect. So many people, what they do is they just go for some courses and they say, I'm a business architect. No, it's a journey. Then application analyst, generally, if you're coming from a good domain, it is good. So I'm not saying you must be an expert in some kind of a ERP system. At least you must be having some knowledge, at least hungry to learn that. Data is the same thing. How many of you, know how many of millions were wasted on data projects? Many companies I know, they just jumped into Hadoop, this and all, big data, but they never had the data that was generated. They went into so much of data lakes, that this and they implemented. I'll just tell you a small case study. What happened is one company, they sold Informatica to Virgin Airlines. It was a few $1 million. And some of my friends were working there. They told Sunil they did not even utilize even 30 to 40% of it. That's what's happening in the industry. Okay, technology analyst. You must be having a, like example, suddenly a mainframe person goes and implements cloud. It's not possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. At least they must try to get into some training, get that mindset. Then solution architecture kind of a concept, because you must try to look at the products. Then market scanning, operations, project management is required in E phase. Same in here, EA and SA role plus project management role. Governance auditing. So now we can able to see strategic management. Again, in requirements management, you must be having some kind of a Scrum Master or some safe agile. You must be having this kind of a concept. So everyone can become an enterprise architect, but that's a journey. Just I want to get into the mind. See, henceforth, what I want to say is, you think at least to pass the exam, this is the mindset you must get. You have two parts in the exam. The first part is like a memory recall, what I call. They got some set of questions. Once you get the concept, you can able to answer the questions. The second part is scenario based. Scenario based means they're going to give a scenario. In A phase, this is the scenario. What decision are going to take? They're going to give you 4 choice. Again, it's got a weightage based. The good choice has got 5 marks. The second choice 3. The third choice 1. The last choice is 0. So what I'm talking henceforth, think from now onwards, you're an enterprise architect doing a massive transformation for a health industry. Okay, now, all are okay. Now we are going for the meat, exactly what it is. Just take a look at the Ministry of Health. Just have a glance of it again, please. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to involve you together. We take this case study. Based on this case study, we discuss what is P phase. So we do the activities together. So once I give the concept, then I open up the chat. So you tell me what you're thinking. Then based on the collective audience, then I'll give my feedback. Then we go in that manner. So what happens, like I'm simulating in a real environment, how you're working. Okay. I hope all of you read this. Okay, see, first of all, we understand what is the conceptual model of the enterprise architecture. This one is from IEEE model. See, this whole model is from IEEE. I forgot to bring that actual model. If you see the actual model, it will take some time to understand. It took me 1 year, guys. to really understand this and come with this concept. In any kind of an enterprise is a system of systems. Okay, think this is a system. So the system of system, especially if you want to go for the modern way of doing the things, everything is browser based. And especially because of COVID, even the operations people, whatever, even the business people, they're going to just use a browser. No more going to the office and doing the work. So if that is the case, you just look system of systems, then go back here, my health record. Just curious, how many of you are using my health record here? Anyone using my health record? Okay, nothing to worry. See, what is my health record does, see, the moment I key in my authentication, is going to pull my health record. It gives all the records, like where all I visited, the hospital, the test I have done, my pathology reports, my appointments, all history is going to come. At the same time, they're integrating, some countries they have done, but in Australia, they're still on the process is going on. The private health practitioner and the government records they got an access to each other. So said that if I visited any other health center, so my record must be available. So just imagine in the backend how much of systems need to be connected, the data need to be retrieved, and the information need to be rendered for the user. Okay, get that mind in your mind. So based on that, let us look back down. So we have a systems in the industry. In every enterprise has got systems and they're operating. Before what we call as the service model, or what we call as everything as a service, X as a service, what we call. Every company had an architecture, but the architecture was determined or defined by the product what you buy. Again, all the products what you buy were all, what was happening is it was like a black box. You don't know what is inside. I don't know. Okay, just before I go, have anyone worked in integration space here? System integration? Have anyone worked in system integration? No? Okay, don't worry. So why I'm asking you this question is, okay, Mike has worked, is great. So why I'm asking, I worked in integration space from 2001. See, in 2001, if we want to make an integration, we're developing a customized adapter. We're doing the hard code together. Then we got some software kind of a product where they had their own plugins for depending on the type of the application. Then afterwards, we got web services. Now it's microservices. It's much more easier. So before, companies will not open up. So just to open up the adapters and build an adapter, it was millions of dollars was wasted. There was so architecture. So what I mean to say is the architecture what we had was like a black box. Nothing was well defined because whatever architecture company was having on the product based. So why I'm trying to give more information here, because once you understand this concept, the others becomes very easy for you to understand. Moving forward, what we're going to do is we are going to look at the stakeholder. The stakeholder, again, we have got two parts. One is the public, because everything is customer centric. What the customer centric? We think from the customer hat, then we look at the problem. Then from the organization perspective, how to manage the systems. We take these two into account. So based on this, then we're going to define the architecture, and that we exactly define not the architecture. We define what kind of capability we need, and based on the capability, then we define what kind of architecture. Okay, that is the way we're going to operate. Okay, I just saw here. Okay, it's good. Mike had worked with SAP and non-SAP. Great. EDI. Okay. Oh, I worked in B2B as well as EDI, as well as I worked with, when I started, it was very early phase. I was working in implementing a Documentum and something called e-translate, and we were developing customized adapters. It was like months together, we wasted the time. If I look back, same thing, what was taking like few months, we can do within 1 or 2 days now. That's the technology has evolved in such a way. Okay, now let us understand a company has now, based on the problem what you saw here. So the Ministry of Health thought, okay, we have so much of legacy systems. Two things. One is because of COVID. What has happened? Okay, that little bit I did not change. Okay, the context, what has happened? Because of COVID, what happened is patients are not able to go for the inpatient. So that's one thing. So just overall, if you think of Australia, the geography dispersed. See, the hospitals what we got in the main cities is not in rural areas. Then value for the money, aging population, more demand for health resources, pressure to do more. So these are some of the problems. These are drivers to start a year practice. See, year practice, nobody will start, because to start a year practice, you must be having some kind of a budget. And as I told you, generally one kind of an army is not possible. You need to have a team to come and start the practice. So the structure must be reorged. So the moment I say that one, you must think there must be a big cost factor. Then only you must take the context, what are the drivers. Then getting the right mix of public and private health systems, because it must be connected together. All the things comes into play. The last week I told you, one of the guy from SAP, I think he's a CIO or CTO, I don't remember. He went to US, he had a fall and his eye had an infection and his record was, he's not able to get his record from Germany. So because of it, he lost his eye. So now SAP is implementing a lot of money in healthcare sector. So it's hospital of the future. What they're expecting? Paperless, all digital. That's the future. Self-service. See, especially when you're doing a telehealth, you must be having a self-service. At least you must be able to take your vital signs and tell the doctor. At least your apparatus, you must be able properly to take the vital signs. Seamless workflow. The workflow is a very important thing. As I go across, I'll tell you when I come to the business architecture. Smart card-based operations, integrated information. So these are some of the things, connectivity end-to-end, because nowadays it's telehealth as well as paperless, e-health, what we call. So on that basis, let us go back now. So in the P phase, what is the objective of the P phase? Two things. First of all, you want to determine the architectural capability designed by the enterprise. See, architecture capability. So architecture means what kind of systems you need, what kind of architecture framework you're following, and what kind of the organization structure you're having. All this you must take a look at it. Example, you're going to first of all look the context. Already I told you the context. Because of COVID or because of the systems, they need to ramp it up. They had so many issues. The last slide I showed you. So first you look at the context. Then again, you're going to look at the scope of the elements, means which are like what kind of capability will be affected. See, architecture, as I told you, it cuts across the enterprise. So you're going to look at the landscape of the enterprise. Then you see where all you'll be intercepting the existing framework, the existing methods, the processes, whatever the company is following. Then, because architecture does not work in isolation, as you saw in my first in the ADM cycle, as the ADM cycle, you'll be working with the project managers, you'll be working with the operations team, business team, delivery, governance. So everywhere there'll be a touch point. Okay. Then you're going to look at the capability maturity target. See, what we call as like a CMMI. CMMI is a concept where companies, especially software companies, where they can able to repeat the process such a way that there's a consistency. So generally in software industry, what they do is if a company is having from 1 to 5, if a company is having no CMMI certification, suppose the cost of the project is 1 million. So a company having no CMMI, they'll be bidding for $500,000. If a company is having 1 or 2, they'll be bidding for 1.2 million. If a company is having 5, they'll be bidding for 2 million. Because the reason is, once you follow the process, there'll be more kind of a resources required, steps are required. But the end result is there is a consistency. You can ensure the business is continuing without any problems. So such a way, if we compare similar concept in enterprise architecture, what we're going to see in enterprise architecture is we're going to make a maturity assessment. In the maturity assessment, we're going to assess, hey, what is the current state of the company? So what is the kind of maturity the company is having in terms of the management support, the processes you are running, the processes means like project management, operations, this kind of a process. Then afterwards, depending on that, then you're going to define what kind of model is required. See, you cannot use the same way to solve the problem, right? You must come with a different approach. If a company is having a project manager and a business architect, a business analyst, or solution architect, you cannot make them to become enterprise architect and start a process. Just think in this way. If you go to any company as a project manager or PMO office, they want to do the project yesterday at half the cost. But an enterprise architect want to future-proof the business capability. So if you want to future-proof, they need to do a lot of analysis. A lot of work is required. Okay, so said that the organ structure must be redesigned to suit the EA practice. Okay, then one of the key thing, what happens in many companies, they set up a practice, they set up a org structure, but they don't ensure a governance process. If you don't ensure a governance process, what happens is projects will go hayward. Say you put a process. What I always say, take an example of a traffic light. There's a traffic light. The lights comes on and off. If there's no camera, red light camera, people still, if nobody around, they just go through. The moment the red light camera, what they do, irrespective of somebody, police is there, police is not there, midnight also, the car will be waiting for signal to come into green. So the message, what I want to say is, governance is such an important thing, especially in EA practice. It must be really well established. Okay, then you must be able to have even what are the kind of metrics you need to measure, what kind of checkpoints, what is the exit criteria, all must need to be analyzed. Then one of the key things in a enterprise architecture practice is, okay, just one more question. How many of you have come from software development here? Software development. How many of you come from software development? Just type in. Okay, I got only one. Okay, great. Anything? Okay, just to tell you, I just want to compare and tell you. Okay, when I started cutting code in 1999, I started as a Java programmer. So then we did not have a rapid application development tool. We're using a text editor. But if I use a text editor now, can I do a software project? No, it's not possible. I need to have a rapid application development tool. I need to have version control. Then I need to have like a deployment tools. So all need to be there and ready. The systems must be able to real-time build. Everything must be there. So similarly, when you establish EA practice, you must be having some kind of a tool. If you don't have a tool, what happens is, as I told you earlier, EA will generate enormous amount of documentation. If the documentation is not properly persisted in a proper tool, it's not possible for you to know really what's happening. That's the intention. Okay, a proper tool must be there. Only that will ensure for you that the architecture capability is really been applied and is been followed. Then we're going to define the principles. I'll be coming in the coming slides. Okay, till now all okay? Fine. Just type me a message if I'm going slow or fast. Let me know. Okay. Okay. See, what TOGAF has done is, it is clearly mentioned. First of all, what steps need to be followed. I'm not going to the steps process here because the main reason is I'll come to it later. Might be the next this one, because steps itself is a big thing to understand. So what TOGAF has done is, one is the steps, exactly do 1, 2, 3, 4. Then after it's given an approach, what is the approach to be done? So again, it must get into your mind, TOGAF, what we call as TOGAF is a descriptive framework. Descriptive means it just describes. So depending on the type of the enterprise, type of the culture, type of the company, you're going to customize the framework. Okay. So said that, so some of 7 aspects of what it is, the approach it has given is, first of all, define the enterprise. So I'll come to that a little bit later. So just try to think in your mind. So we are talking, the case study today is all about health industry. Again, I told you enterprise architecture does not work in isolation. Enterprise architecture has got the whole organization to be considered as a system. At the same time, enterprise works with other enterprises, like a partners. Again, they're responsible to follow some kind of regulations. Even if you want to give some kind of a new treatment, there must be an approval process from the federal government, whatever the process they have followed. And especially some of the international drugs you're going to import, there must be a standard way of federal health from US, all must be approved. The FITA something they call. Again, health records when we exchange, there are some standards. So all this need to be considered. So based on that, think of what is enterprise in your mind. I'll be coming across later. Then identify the key drivers, okay, and elements in organizational context. Then this I'll be talking to you a little bit later. Requirements for architectural work. So what is this is one of the end result what you are going to get. Finish the P phase. Then define the principles. So one of the key thing, what happens as an enterprise architect when we define some kind of a standards or some kind of an approach. Even if you're not around, people must be able to take a decision. Because as an enterprise architect cannot be everywhere, the principles will assist you to the decision-making mechanism. Just curious, how many of you come across a principal document in your enterprise? How many of you come across a principal document? Have you seen a principal document in your enterprise? Don't worry, if you're not seen, just make a point when you go on Monday to your office, or of course, now all if you're working from the home, just take a look. Do you have a principal document? That's very important. Okay, just curious, how many of you are working from the home? Are you still going to the office or working from the home? Okay, working from home, home. Okay. We're very lucky, working in IT industry. Okay, then we go to define the framework to be used. I'll tell you why the framework. By this time, it must come to your mind, why a framework? Can anyone say why you must look at the framework? Think, guys, I really want you to get involved. Think of the ADM phase. In the P phase, we're establishing a EA practice. When I establish EA practice, think of the ADM cycle. I told you in A phase, we have what we have got. You must be having the concept of a mindset or a process that need to work as a project. B phase, business architecture. C phase, application and data. So it's not possible you come as an enterprise architect practitioner and define some new things. You're going to define a framework, what exists in a company, and it is, again, you make some analysis, then you're going to recommend. So said that, what we're going to do is we look at each part of the process what a company is following, right from how they initiate the business, what kind of project management process they're following, what kind of operations they're doing, what kind of a governance. Then you see what really fits you, because the reason is we defined a kind of a maturity what the company expects in the next 2 or 3 years. So to achieve that, what you need to do. Okay, I got a question here. To get the structure right. Yes, Rao. So to get the structure right, we must have. See, one of the main thing, in the first class I told you, TOGAF is a framework. So framework means it exactly tells you at each phase what need to be done. So said that, again, that each and every phase in every enterprise is running now. But the only thing what you want to achieve is you want to make it so much run smoothly, at the same time give the flexibility to make the change as evolving business model or to meet the demanding customer needs. Okay. Then we define the relationship between the management frameworks. So generally, every company has got some management framework. What we call generally this kind of a framework, we call as the project management, the operations, and how they initiate a business. Then evaluate the enterprise architecture maturity. I told you earlier, these are steps you need to follow minimum. Okay, now let us look one by one. Okay, what I do is I'll explain this concept for you. So once I finish this concept, we take a 10 minutes break, then we come back. Okay. Okay, see, we are talking about health industry. Because next slide, I'll be talking about what is an enterprise, what does it constitute. Anyone from the health industry here? Anyone from the health industry? No, no one? No problems. Okay, utility, okay. Just tell me the domains where you are working. Bank, insurance, education, revenue, defense, anything? Because I try to structure and try to relate as I go across. See, the beauty, I was very lucky. I worked a little bit. We put a practice for Downer here. That's a utility company. Then I worked for the University of New South Wales to put a EA practice in 2014. We put a Archimate modeling with EA practice. So again, sometimes what happens, we put a lot of process. It all depends on the like a CIO or CEO who is there. Like once the leader leaves, so whatever they're following, sometimes it will be continued, sometimes it will be taken off. Okay, I got a rough idea what you guys are doing. It's great. Okay, health industry has got four things. Okay, we call it 4 Ps. First of all, we think of the patient. Okay, who receives the treatment. Then the provider is the hospitals, the clinics, the polyclinics, or your what is that X-ray or a pathology department. All comes under the provider. The policy maker. This one is the government. Again, you got standard bodies. Okay, let me ask you, any standard body you come across now, till now? Any standard body? Come on, guys. APRA, okay. No, think from health industry. Health industry, Indian Medical Institute, that's good. We recently, you're seeing in the newspapers every day happening. Yes, WHO. Say WHO is one of the biggest things you're seeing what's happening. They are the one to say, is it a pandemic, not a pandemic? They're one of the policymakers. They say what even they define. Okay, so you got a lot of other bodies which do. Federal food and drug, that's also a very big thing. And there's so many other areas. So said that policymaker or it depends. Okay, government. Again, you got state government, you got federal government. So policymaker is a government plus standard bodies. Then who is the payer? Please remember, a payer can be same. At the same time, payer can be insurance company, or it can be part of the government, whatever this one. So payer is the one. So health industry has got 4 Ps. Okay, this is standard practice in the industry. So when you go to any domain, they got some core things. So once you know the things, it's the same. You can able to manage it. Okay. Okay. What we do is you take a break.